If you have been paying attention to recent developments in the Middle East and the energy markets, you might have a subtle feeling that something about this moment seems familiar. Fluctuations in oil prices, rising inflation expectations, and a market that is becoming more sensitive to uncertainty. This kind of atmosphere is not new. In fact, it echoes a period several decades ago when the global economy went through a much more direct and intense shock. During the 1970s, the world experienced two major oil crises that fundamentally reshaped the economic order. At that time, many countries were completely unprepared. Industrial systems that relied heavily on stable energy supplies suddenly faced disruptions. Costs surged rapidly while growth failed to keep pace, leading to a difficult situation where inflation was high but economic activity was weak. What later came to be known as stagflation, this combination posed a serious challenge for policymakers because actions taken to stimulate growth could worsen inflation, while measures to control inflation could further suppress the economy. As a result, many responses at the time appeared reactive and sometimes even improvised. Some governments imposed driving restrictions, others reduced working hours, and some attempted to control prices through administrative measures. These actions may have provided temporary relief, but did not address the underlying structural issues. What ultimately created divergence between countries was not who reacted fastest in the moment, but who made more effective long-term adjustments afterward. Somewhat, economies began to rethink their energy structures, investing in efficiency and diversification. Others reallocated resources toward more competitive industries, while some remained locked into existing paths and gradually lost momentum. This is why, under the same external shock, some economies stagnated for extended periods, while others managed to transform and even rise. An important detail here is that crises themselves do not automatically generate opportunity. What matters is how decisions are made under pressure. In that period, certain companies significantly improved energy efficiency, reduced dependence on single inputs, and optimized operations. These changes may have seemed like short-term survival strategies at the time, but over the long run, they became sources of competitive advantage. From a financial perspective, large swings in energy prices also redirected capital flows. Assets tied to real resources were reassessed, while industries with high costs and low adaptability faced increased pressure. This kind of differentiation can still be observed today in different forms. When energy becomes a source of uncertainty, markets tend to re-evaluate which assets are more resilient. And this process is less about short-term sentiment and more about structural understanding. If we bring the perspective closer to the present, the global economy is clearly different from what it was in the 1970s. Energy systems are more complex, and technology has advanced significantly. But one thing has not changed. When key resources become unstable, the entire system feels the impact. Difference lies in how it manifests. For example, inflation today is influenced not only by demand, but also by supply-side constraints, which bears some resemblance to the past. However, the range of policy tools available today is broader, which means outcomes may not follow the same path. From an investment or observational standpoint, there are still patterns worth paying attention to. During periods of rising uncertainty, markets often begin to favor areas supported by tangible assets and stable cash flows, while becoming more cautious towards sectors that depend heavily on external conditions and have weaker resilience. This shift may not be immediately visible in prices, but can gradually be seen in how capital is allocated. Another aspect worth noting is the redistribution of industries. When cost structures change, certain sectors that were previously at a disadvantage may begin to find new opportunities. This transition is often gradual, but once established, it can persist for a long time. Looking back at that historical period, the most meaningful takeaway is not just what happened, but how different choices led to different long-term outcomes. Some decisions that appeared to be short-term responses later became starting points for transformation, while others merely delayed necessary adjustments. In many ways, a crisis acts like a mirror. It amplifies existing weaknesses and accelerates structural change. So when we observe similar signals today, it may not be necessary to draw direct parallels, but it is worth asking a deeper question. Where is this shift redirecting resources and opportunities? The answers may not be immediately obvious, but they are often already taking shape beneath the surface.